Hello, Chris Mystery Clinic, coming to the Far Coast once again. I've had a bit of a chill day today. I'm not doing any form of work on the tools today. What I am doing is, once again, on my chill out days, if you like, I end up picking the kids up from school, which is quite nice. So, in the meantime, while I'm waiting, I thought I'd do a quick video on employees and growing businesses, etc. There are a number of people who I speak to on a pretty much a weekly basis who want to sort of grow their business, but their biggest hurdle is taking staff on because they understand, they know that in order for their business to grow, they're going to need to bring other people in. But it scares the bejesus out of a lot of people because they don't know the employees' rights, they don't know their own rights, they don't know where they stand legally or otherwise, in the form of things like contracts, in the form of, you know, how to treat employees and all that sort of stuff. Then there's the risk of taking on the wrong kind of person and it harming your business, etc. There is a bit of a minefield, to be honest with you. So I thought I'd do a quick video about that. Imagine now you're at the position where you're really busy. You've gone through the nif naff and trivia of starting the business. You're now grown to the point now where you're working long days, it's getting hard, you're doing all the invoicing yourself, you're doing all the bits and bats, you're working on the tools, you spend a good chunk of your day going out and doing the work, and then you come home and then you're confronted by paperwork. You do take on a lot of responsibility when you become self-employed. And that level of responsibility is only going to grow as your business grows. But there are ways of doing it where you are best protected. You might not necessarily need to take on employees. And it's a choice for each person to take based on the merits of that business. So I'm not going to say, well, everybody should take on employees. Well, why wouldn't you? So let's say you are that person who's run ragged, you're a busy fool, you've got cash flow coming in, but you are ultimately run pillar to post and you're not really getting the most out of your business, you're not enjoying it, you're starting to rue the day you made the decision to sort of go it alone. If you're not going to take on employees, the best thing you could probably do is raise your prices. That's to say, if you are packed out, you're working 8, 9, 10, 12 hours a day, you're doing lots and lots of jobs, but you want more out of your business, then what I would do is ultimately put your prices up. You might lose 20% of your clientele, but the remaining 80% will make up the shortfall with the increase of fees. And if you don't lose 20%, you'll lose a smaller amount, then all the better. You're at least being paid adequately for the services that you offer. The other side of the coin is if you wanted to take on employees. For that, you can download, like I did. I made the mistake of doing this. I downloaded a contract off the internet for bog standard employees, just the things that need to be on there, etc. And it did not include clauses in it for things like damage, you know, and all this sort of stuff. I didn't produce a handbook or anything like that. It was literally a case of, there's a contract of employment, I'm going to show you what you need to do, and then the rest is history. And as with anything else, there's not a problem until there's a problem. A couple of years down the line now, we've had one of our employees has caused damage to a vehicle. Nothing drastic, but he has, when all said and done, caused damage to the vehicle. He's driven into a lamppost on the driver's side and scraped the side of the van. So I needed ultimately new panels fitted to the van. And then once those new panels are fitted, it needed respraying, and then once it needed respraying, it needed the livery putting back on it. So that's 10 days worth of lost revenue, okay, in addition to paying out for the excess of 350 quid. And all that, you know, what I wanted at the time was to tell the employee, right, well, you're paying the excess. You at the very least, you're going to pay me the excess to get this fixed. Which is not unreasonable, and it's what a lot of people do. There's only one problem. There was no clause in his employment contract that permitted me to add that cost to him and take it out of his wages before he received it. And if I did take that money out of his wages, I'd be getting a slap from the local authority, from the government even, because when all said and done, it's against the law. Unless it specifically mentions the fact of things like damages, shortages of cash, and all this sort of stuff, unless you specifically mention what it is you're taking that money out of their contract for, there's no room, you've got no leg to stand on. And if you do it, you will be punished. So in the intervening period, what we've chosen to do is to look at, we need an employment contract that ultimately protects the business, protects me as a business owner, without infringing too much in the way of rights on the employee. As with anything, it's a balance in all things, right? I'm not here to be a tyrant, but when all said and done, I'm not here to be an endless stream of, money out for mistakes made by those that I trust to look after the equipment. I did think about going to a solicitor, getting an employment contract drawn up. There's nothing wrong with that. But the downside of doing this, aside from the fact that it's going to cost you pop star wages to achieve, is that ultimately they will charge you for that contract alone. And at the time of writing, that contract will be complete, it will be correct, it will stand up to legal scrutiny, so that if you choose to enforce those clauses and all this sort of stuff, golden, happy days. There's only one problem. If there is a change in the law, if the circumstances change with the contract, then ultimately you then have to go back to the solicitor, pay your pennies again, and ultimately get a new contract drawn up, which can be quite expensive. So I was talking with a couple of my friends who also run businesses, who also have employees, who also have contracts for their employees already drawn up and all this sort of stuff. The alternative to going to a solicitor was presented to me by George. He's a friend of mine. I may have mentioned him once or twice in a few of my other videos. But ultimately George said, why don't you give Alison a ring? And Alison runs a company that specialises in HR and contract and employment law. Now, rather than pay £750 plus VAT, which is £1,000 for a contract that may or may not stand up for a couple of years, what this company that we've taken on does is they charge you a monthly retainer for a minimum period of 3 years, and it's £66 a month for me. So I pay £66 a month, and as a result they basically take on all of my they take on all the necessary headache of making sure the contracts are up to date, making sure that any changes of the law are immediately applied to a new contract, and all they'll do is they'll draw up a fresh contract, give it to me, I will get the employee to sign again another contract which will include that new change of law, and that contract will then supersede that contract going forward. So obviously, for example, things like Brexit and stuff like that have changed a couple of things. Some EU law related to employees is going to change, and that doesn't mean that those rights are going to go away. They're not. They're going to be replaced potentially by British legislation. But the thing is that new contract needs to reflect that change. Otherwise, it's null and void. Not null and void, but it's not. You're going to have a harder time standing up in a court and enforcing it. This £66 a month, including VAT, is ultimately going to counter that. So we're hoping that this is going to be the solution that we've been looking for, and as a result I'm hoping to do a video in the future, not so far off. We've spoken to Alison about it, about us setting up a little interview style video where I can put generic frequently asked questions towards her and she can provide those answers, but also just want to use this video as an opportunity for you guys that subscribe to the channel, who may have your own businesses, who may have questions, to ask someone far more qualified than me to answer these questions. So in the comment section, if you so choose, you can leave your question, and I will put a number of those questions. Ideally, I'll try and ask all these questions to Alison. I'll put all these questions to Alison, and she can give you a bit more of an overview of those answers. And we're looking hopefully at getting a discount for subscribers, so that if you decide to take on Alison's services, you will get it at a cheaper rate. I'm not looking to take any reward out of this. I'm not looking for a monthly kickback, but if I can help any of the subscribers to the channel grow their business, ultimately that will do for me. And if you can get the same services that I get for cheaper, all power to you. But yeah, that's where we're at so far. So as usual, queries, questions, comments, bring them on. I will put those questions to Alison at a future date when we do the video. And yeah, I think I'm going to leave the video here. My daughter's about to come out of school, and yeah, so as per usual, keep on keeping on. I'll see you in the next video.